If you look at the leading candy bars, for example, for the last 50 years, I think you'll find Snickers on top, and then you got M&Ms. You got two types, so they don't combine the peanuts with the other ones. But I think they're number 2 and 4, and Hershey's in there number 3 or something of the sort. Yeah, I can't take them on. I don't think Elon should take them on. They have moats. When you go into a drugstore, 7-Eleven or something, and you say, I would like a Snickers bar, and the owner says, oh, I've got something, the Musk bar, at 10 cents off the Snickers bar, you say, give me the Snickers. And if he doesn't give you the Snickers, you go across the street and buy the Snickers. The brands are moats, I mean, obviously. And if you try to, this product is selling, to hundreds of millions of people who want Coca-Cola. If you say, I'll sell you something for 2 cents less, or I've got some celebrity's name on it. They actually, Richard Branson tried Virgin Cola in the United States about 15 or 20 years ago. And a million others have been tried. So I don't really have the same urge to produce automobiles that he apparently has to produce candy. But I don't suggest that he take on Snickers.
You're taking me literally and stepping away from the real story here, which is kind of this war of words between you and Charlie and Elon. And I just want, do you even know Elon Musk?
I've never said anything negative about Elon. I mean, you're baiting me a little bit to do it. But,
I am.
But I've never, people like his car and everything. But somebody mentioned that now he's talking about financing. Something this morning about that. I thought I heard that earlier.
Yes, well, actually, Andrew just read some headlines where it looked like Tesla may be going back to market to pick up some additional financing. I'm not entirely sure. All I heard was the headline.
That's what I call a counter-revelation. I mean, Charlie, because I think it was just a few days ago they said they wouldn't need financing. But he's trying something to improve a product, and I salute him for that. And the American public will decide whether it's a success, and it's not easy. It's probably easier to develop a new car than to compete with Snickers. But some products have terrific moats. Probably Elmer's glue does. WD-40. I mean, there's just certain things that you are not much inclined to be dissatisfied with and see. And I would say that, incidentally, that the iPhone. Has a terrific moat. I mean, people that have an iPhone, or maybe have some other phone, but they want to continue with the product that they've got. They want the new version. It's just easier for them. They've learned how to do everything, and their life's built around it and all of that. And moats are very useful. Costco has a moat in people's mind. I mean, Amazon can raise the price of Prime, 20%, and you can't do that unless you've built something within that image of the Amazon Prime that's based on reality, that you're going to get a lot for your money and you're going to want to use it, and then you can raise prices $20. But if you're selling, some commodity product, you can't do that. You need a moat.
Let me talk about electric cars. You have a stake in BYD, the Chinese electric car maker, but Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, is considered a visionary. But he goes from cars to SpaceX. And over the weekend, SpaceX announced it believes it can get its Dragon capsule to land on Mars by the year 2018. Do you see that happening, Bill?
Well, Elon's a Mars optimist, and that's a great example of that. The fact that private sector companies are driving this stuff is a great phenomena. Jeff Bezos has Blue Origin that's pushing in this direction. I'm not that big on this whole Mars thing, but a lot of the successful tech peoples are putting their money into that area.
If he makes it happen, would you consider going in your lifetime, Bill?
No, Mars is pretty far away, and that has no deep fascination for me.
About a one-way ticket for you, Warren.
Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is across the river, is a big deal as far as I'm concerned.
That's as far as you're going.
Absolutely.
Well, he's working on Mars. You're working to cure problems and ills on this planet, like cancer and poverty. Which comes first, Elon Musk landing on Mars or the eradication of poverty, Bill?
Well, fortunately, we can do these things in parallel. And there are some great milestones. The polio is down to very few cases, so the last case will probably be this year or next. Then we have to go 3 years before we get fully certified as having eradicated polio. And now we're starting on malaria. So my equivalent of Mars is eradicating diseases, and I got to tell you, it's super exciting stuff.
Buffett versus Musk. This is fascinating. You know, I was out there at the meeting, and I saw that question asked, which was basically on moats, and saying Musk is really dumping on you, Warren, essentially, because he's saying moats are out of date. And he said, well, let him come after me and candy. And then Elon Musk immediately tweets back, I'm starting a candy company, and it's going to be amazing. And then he goes on and says, I'm super, super serious about this.
There's almost a kind of Trumpian element to this, right? Like, that's it. We're starting a candy company. Like, keep doing your space thing, keep building your tunnels, but I'm going to start a candy company too. It's just.
Well, I hope he's joking. Don't you think? I mean,
okay, but
he's
here's
super serious.
It's not as capital intensive. He wouldn't have to raise as much money.
Here's my thing. He's trying to get Model 3 off the ground. He's complaining that he's sleeping in his office on a really uncomfortable couch or futon. What are you doing?
And he's trying to go to Mars, by the way.
Right. What are you doing listening in to whatever is happening at Berkshire Hathaway? Like, do your job and stop being mean to analysts instead of tweeting.
And the other Musk story, just while we're talking about that, is a must-read on the Bloomberg today, is about the YouTuber who really took over the call last week. For reading later, for those out in TV land.
Next case, Tesla. Their CEO, Elon Musk. Now, he's making headlines for that strange-sounding earnings call the other day. I want to bring in Loop Ventures managing partner Gene Munster, who is a Tesla guy, a true believer that Tesla is the whatever. But you're a true believer, okay? Got it. But do you think that after all of this, that rather strange call, is he the right guy to be leading an auto company at this point?
I think he is, and I want to just quick put the magnitude of how strange that was into perspective, Stuart, is I've been on just over 1,900 earnings calls, and this one stands alone in terms of how combative it was, and it does beg that question about his temperament. And I think at the end of the day is that it reminds me very much like Steve Jobs was, and I think that these crazy visionaries need this. I think there should be better rails around it, but the simple takeaway is this is one of the costs of having a leader that is a visionary, is they get easily irritated.
Look, they're burning through cash. We heard that they were burning through $6,500 a minute or some extraordinary amount. He's going to have to borrow more money in the fairly immediate future, probably around $2 billion. Who's going to lend him money with a backdrop like that earnings call and the difficulties of producing the Model 3?
I think a lot of people will lend them money, and the reason is that this company is just uniquely positioned. We've talked about this in the past, is the mission statement's just not about create car. It's about renewable energy and accelerating the globe's adoption of that. And so it's about capturing, storing, and using that energy. I just want to put a quick story around this, is that as soon as the Model 3 gets out into the masses, I think you're going to see that the public view of this, investors' view of this story is going to turn more positive. So to answer your question, who's going to give them money? Once there's more Model 3s out, I think that that's really going to turn the light on, that this is a pivotal moment in automotive, and people are going to want to get behind that story.
Okay, Gene Munster is still a true believer. I'm going to move on to another, and that would be Apple. I think you're a true believer there. And we had the news that Warren Buffett just bet big on Apple. He bought 75 million shares in the first quarter of this year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gene, you are forecasting a 7% rise in Apple stock, what is it, this year or next year?
So what we're thinking about is just the pure impact of the buyback alone. This has nothing to do with new products or increase in the multiple around excitement about the next phone, for example. This is just what the company potentially could do by taking that massive amount of cash that they generate and slowly buying the stock back. They can basically buy back somewhere between $50 and $60 billion a year, which would be that 7%. I think that the story on Apple is going to change over the next year, and Warren Buffett's a perfect example of that. This is going to go away from investors sweating an iPhone quarter because the iPhone's more stable now. It's not growing, but it's more stable. And separately and more importantly is this focus on cash, the massive amount of cash. Very different than the other FANG stocks, the amount of cash that they generate. And I think that they're going to be rewarded in the market for buying their stock back.
And by the way, Apple looks like it's on track for a record high close today if it keeps on as it is. Gene, you're having a good day. Tesla's okay, Apple's okay, and you're on this program. Well, we like that. Thank you very much indeed, Gene.
Thank you, Stuart.